It is Friday, so May the 4th be with you. This recording is done just prior to the close, but all indexes are up across the board at this time. In other news, a Midtown Manhattan meeting with David Einhorn of Greenlight Capital and Carson Block of Muddy Waters are giddy about their short positions on Anheuser-Busch InBev, Ralph Lauren, and Tesla. Well, I wouldn't want to be short on a day like today. Elsewhere, we find that Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway have totally exited their holding of IBM. And the big news is that Berkshire bought another 75 million shares of Apple and now holds about 240 million shares of Apple. Apparently, Warren heard that I told my friend to sell Apple and run like a thief. And as a side note, we'll take a look at Apple once again in a later video. But lastly, the unemployment rate fell to 3.9%. So let's take a look at the markets. Before we take a look at the markets, I wanted to answer a couple of questions from some subscribers. And the first question is, what indicators do I look at when I'm analyzing a stock? So here we are. I take a look at first the exponential moving average. Moving on down here to the lower indicators, I use the MACD, the MACD histogram, the momentum, price rate of change, the relative strength index, or the RSI, stochastics, volume, and the Williams. Now, each of these time settings, these are the default settings, and I don't change those. I don't want to do what I call fit the curve. I don't want to have a preconceived idea of a stock. So I always use the default settings. Sometimes if I'm trading, we'll talk about that a little bit more, I'll use the commodity channel index. And the time frame here is 20 years. I start out with 20 years monthly, but in the time frame you can go all the way up into intraday to 1 day. And here in the frequency, you can go daily as well as weekly, but then you can go intraday all the way from 60 minutes down to 1 minute. But basically, I start out with a monthly, 20-year monthly, and then move my way down. And this is a free service, Real Stock or realtimestockquote.com. I also use MarketWatch, and I'll use stockcharts.com as well. And what the other question has to do with, what dividend stocks do I buy? Well, right now, the only stock that I have bought was the ETF TLT. I believe strongly, in my opinion, that we're going to have difficulties in 2018. And so I've even gone as far as to sell my primary home. So I have cash ready to go. I do have some stock certificates in some very high risk stocks, but otherwise I have cash ready to go, and my first purchase was TLT. Any other purchases or sales, I will let you know. So let's go ahead and take a look at the charts. And here we are on the 20-year monthly chart on the spiders. And the close today, Friday, was 266.02. And I think you could just barely see here that we are above the 20 and the 50 EMA, and we're setting up again this little wedge, and we're getting closer and closer and closer. Now, moving on down here to the MACD, it looks like the fast line is heading to the slow line. It's just kissing it, not quite through, but I think that we'll probably have a reflection, and we'll take a look at that when we get to the 6-month daily. But right now it's sitting right here, but I do expect a reflection up. And of course, to me, it's a probability. That's what I believe is the highest probability. MACD histogram, pretty steep decline here, as well as in the momentum, the price rate of change into the relative strength. We have a reflection at this point here. That's the only one that's showing a reflection so far. Stochastics is still heading down. Momentum, the volume, a little bit of a increase here recently. And then, of course, the Williams, it's not quite a reflection, but a hesitation here above the 50 line or midline. Moving on up here back to the price chart. And what I'm expecting is just further progress sideways as this wedge gets tighter and tighter and tighter. So let's go ahead and take a look at the weekly chart. And this is the 2-year weekly chart on the spiders. And this starts to give you an indication of why I think we're going to have a reflection here. We're below the 20 EMA, but we're above the 50 EMA here. And as you can see, we're doing a nice little dish, at least in this respect. Now, you can also take a look at it with regard to the wedge coming like that and coming like that. And we're moving sideways to the pinch point. But you can also look at it with that curved sort of dish. And here we go with the MACD is we're heading down to the 0 line, but we're still relatively strong above that. And as you can see in the histogram, that we are improving. So that's partially why I think we're going to have a reflection. And you see that here in the momentum, a nice strong move off of the bottom there. And in the price rate of change, we're still heading down, but I would expect that this is going to turn sideways here real soon. The relative strength is going sideways. Moving down here to the stochastic, the fast line has moved through the slow line here. And volume, moderate, nothing to be concerned about. And then the Williams had a nice move off of the bottom here. So as you can see, we're starting to see some strength in some of these oscillators on a weekly basis. So we're setting up the strength, and I think you can see that as well in the price here. Again, that's why I think we're going to have a reflection. Let's go to the 6-month daily chart. So here we have the 6-month daily on the spiders, and you can go through and draw those trend lines as I had before. I have a straight trend line here, mostly straight. You can angle that up if you want, but it doesn't really matter. Definitely this one is angling down, so I'll draw that. And what we're doing, the stock or the index is moving sideways, so we're going to get to this pinch point. We had a very good day today, so it's possible that we may just carry that on through and hit this level here, move through that trend line. But first we're going to want to head to this point. Then we're going to want to see a move above there. And then of course a move above the prior high. Moving down here into the MACD, you can see that things have improved from here early April. Definitely moving up. The same is shown in the MACD histogram. The momentum, price rate of change, relative strength, stochastics all show improvement, moderate volume, and then definitely Williams is showing the bottom here, definite improvement here. Moving on up back to the chart, I can see that it's hit once, twice here. It may not get back down here, but it's possible. But it's bounced off twice, and it looks pretty strong. And if you want to draw your curve in here too, that looks like it's dishing here in the bottom, and then possibly moving on up. And if so, then we're going to have a move through this trend line here, perhaps even next week or so. And so that's another lesson here is the indexes are going to pull up all other stocks. So all boats are going to rise with the tide of the indexes. So if you're in a stock like Caterpillar, you're going to have a chance to have a pretty good chance of selling that pretty soon at a higher point than it is perhaps today. And such as I told my friend to sell Apple about a month ago or so. I can't pick the top on these things, and I don't ever want to say that I do. But what I can do is get near the top. And oftentimes, stocks will revisit their highs and revisit their lows. So there's no need to try to pick the top or the bottom. So for today, that's ChewDog Charts. Thank you.